So, hello and welcome to the Challenge to Change podcast. So, this is part of series two. And as you can see, I'm not alone for this podcast episode. I'm here with my colleague, Alison Jakins. Hello, Alison. How are you today?
Good, thanks. Hi, Hazel.
Hello. So, Alison, do you want to just talk a little bit about your role for Cheshire East Council before we launch into the episode?
Yes, sure. I look after a group of volunteers. There's approximately 25 active volunteers who cover the whole of the Cheshire East Borough, and they are called waste reduction volunteers because they are passionate about reducing the waste that we create in our environment.
Amazing. They do an incredible job. They really do. It's fantastic. So, today we are going to talk about Plastic Free July, which is coming around really quickly. We're already at the end of May. Yeah, Plastic Free July runs, as you can imagine, throughout the whole of July. Obviously, it's plastic free, but of course, we can just, if we want to use that opportunity, just to reduce our plastic waste, especially if we're thinking about single-use plastic items. So, I think probably the first thing that's worth talking about actually is the Love Food, Hate Waste campaign, which sounds a little bit odd to begin with, because, well, what's that got to do with plastic waste or packaging waste? But actually, it's got quite a lot to do with that. So do you want to start us off by talking a bit about that awesome campaign?
Yeah, basically, they headed it up under the banner of Buy Loose, Waste Less. And this is essentially by giving consumers the power to choose how much food they buy.
Yeah,
Um, it enables them to clearly waste less food. So it was a food waste campaign. But
yeah.
ultimately, if you buy loose, you're going to reduce the amount of plastic that you use as well. So it's a double win, really, from reducing waste that we create in general. Um, and it's just going to make a big difference the more that consumers choose to buy loose fruit and vegetables, the more affordable an option it's going to be. Because if you imagine supply and demand, if most people choose to buy loose, then the demand for pre-packaged fruit and veg is going to decline, and therefore the economies of scale, if you like, for packaged goods is going to diminish.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more economical for supermarkets to buy loose fruit and veg and meet that higher demand of
Mm.
loose, in which case they can buy more and make greater savings. So we've just got to shift the weight of balance on the scales by voting with our purses and saying this is what we want to choose. And if we all do that, then those savings should start to filter through.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think when you think about the past, certainly when I was a child, I would go to the greengrocers with my mum, and she would sort of, rock up there with her. I think it was like a reusable kind of string bag of some description that she'd put all the fruit and vegetables in there that we needed, I guess, for the week or whatever. Long time ago now, but it's almost kind of moving back towards that, really, isn't it? Where
Yeah,
we're buying what we need, we're buying them loose, we're bringing our packaging with us, and we're filling that up inside the store.
yes,
It will make such a difference, definitely. And I feel like it is an easy-ish win, I think, for people. You know,
yes.
you can sometimes, in supermarkets, you do sometimes get those options of buying your bananas loose, or buying your clementines or oranges loose, or avocados. So there are sometimes those options there. And then if there's other types of shops that you go into, like farmers markets and other kind of local stores, there's often even a greater possibility to buy loose as well. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Mm.
even if you just decided, okay, for July, I'm going to trial buying my fruit and veg loose,
Yeah.
and you may find that because you are not having to buy in bulk or buy a certain amount, even if it might be slightly more expensive per unit, you might buy 5 bananas and eat 4 and 1 goes in the bin. So if you take into account the food waste, you may find that it balances itself out anyway. So maybe just give it a try for July and see how you get on.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And I think it's a good point as well when we're thinking about that food waste. We're perhaps not always thinking about it in terms of the cost. When we're in the shop, it's easy to think about the cost and, well, this is cheaper than that. So you're potentially going to go for something that's cheaper. But if you're throwing the food away, you're also throwing the money away as well.
Exactly.
So it's got to be a motivational
So
factor for most people, I'd have thought.
exactly, it's not quite as clear cut as we perhaps may think. And like I say, the more people that buy loose, the cheaper it's going to get.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So also kind of moving on from that campaign, another thing that people can do is to choose to refill. Could be plastic packaging, could be packaging of any kind. So you can, if you have a zero waste or refill shop close to you, that can be an option. As if people have listened to the Challenge to Change podcast before, this is something that I've talked about quite a few times, and it is something that I do as a consumer. I'm lucky that I do live close to a refill shop, and it saves a huge amount of waste in general, but plastic packaging in particular, because we buy refillable shampoo, conditioner, cleaning products, all kinds of things that it does make such a difference to the waste you create and the amount of recycling that you put in your recycle bin. So it's really good.
Yeah, and I think again, even if you just wanted to try this for July, and I know it's very easy to say, well, if you make your own lunch, you're going to use less packaging, but not everybody, with the best will in the world, has got the time to make their own lunch, and we can talk about savings that you can make there with waste. But the biggest creation of waste is going out and buying your lunch. But there are still choices there. They are now offering, in some cases, loose fruit instead of chopped fruit in plastic packaging. I've noticed they're offering bakery items again, which is a paper bag rather than plastic. Because at the end of the day, every plastic that's ever been created is still in existence in the environment.
Yeah.
So alternatives, they're now offering not just drinks in plastic bottles. You can opt for a drink in an aluminium can, and again, just decide to do that for July. Aluminium is fully recyclable. Plastic can only be recycled a certain number of times, and then it just cannot be recycled. Aluminium is definitely a more environmentally friendly choice. So there's little things that you can do just in your daily lunch that can make savings and that can make a difference. And remember,
Absolutely.
it's only one plastic bottle said 8 billion people or something like that. And I love that phrase because it's so true. Well, it's just one plastic bottle. Why will that make a difference? But if we all do something about that one plastic bottle every lunchtime, then it really will make a difference.
It will, absolutely. So I think, thinking about that Hubbub campaign where, it's a reminder for people to bring their reusable water bottle with them. And also, as you said, you make your lunch, remembering to take it with you, because I know I'm someone that where I've been diligent, I've made my lunch, and then I've left it in the fridge. It's something that can happen. So they've got this great campaign. It's quite a kind of comedic campaign where you're putting your house keys in the fridge on top of your lunch, or you're putting your reusable water bottle inside your shoe so you don't forget to take it with you, because the intentions are wonderful, but you've actually got to put it into practice as well.
I think that's a great idea. It really is. And I've now got a caddy in my car, a bit like a bottle carrier, if you like, with
Right.
6 spaces, and it's got my different refillable cups.
Yeah.
So because I was one of those people that had the best of intentions and then kept going out and, oh, I've not remembered my cup. I
Yeah.
never forget my refillable water bottle. That's kind of attached to me.
Yeah. You've got that
But
locked in.
yeah, coffee cups are I keep in my boot, and I find that way I don't get caught out.
Yeah. I think it is a tricky thing, and I think it does depend on the person. I mean, I am someone who, I don't want to say I operate by the kind of off the cuff, but I'll suddenly go, oh, I might just pop into this coffee shop, and I had no intentions of going in there. So then I won't have a reusable cup with me, but then you can choose to stay in if you've got the time to do
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So there is that option there.
Mm.
Also, if you do, depending on where you go, but you most likely will end up with a paper cup and a plastic lid. So you can rinse it out. You can maybe reuse it
Yes.
in some way in the garden, or you can perhaps rinse it out and recycle it if
That's
it's
it.
clean enough to do so. Yeah.
Absolutely right. And as one of our great volunteers, Kevin, has said, single-use plastic is only single use if you only use it once. And
True.
if you take that plastic cup home and then put compost in it and grow seedlings, again, you're extending its useful life.
True.
So it's thinking outside the box a little bit. I always have a foldable carry bag, which
Yeah.
is fabric reusable. That's another great movement,
Yeah.
morsbags.com, if you're interested
Yeah.
in prolonging the life of textiles, but also keeping down, the usage of and reliance that we have on, oh, I'll just pay 50p or whatever people pay, I've no idea, for a plastic bag. So yes, I don't go, that's in my handbag, and I don't go anywhere without, a foldable shopping bag.
Yeah. Same. That is something, despite my struggle to remember things, which I've mentioned on the podcast before, without reminders, lists, that kind of thing. I struggle to remember things. That is something that I have got locked in. I've got my own reusable cloth bag, which kind of doubles as a handbag, and I do have additional bags in there so that I'm not caught out in the
Mhm.
supermarket. But I think as well, if you are in the supermarket and you do end up with a plastic bag, remember that plastic bag can be reused, as you've already said. As the wonderful volunteer Kevin's talked about, you can reuse that plastic bag, and if you get one of those sort of super strong durable ones that's made out of plastic and other materials, remember as well that can't go into your recycle bin. So if you've got a pure plastic bag that's still called a bag for life, that can go into your recycle bin, but more importantly, you can reuse it. So rather than putting it in the recycle bin, if you've got it, keep using it. Don't put it in the recycle bin. But if it reaches a point where you don't have a choice, then it can go
Mm.
in, so long as it's not that mixed
Yeah.
material.
And again, those bags for life, if it's got a bit, if it's disintegrated a bit,
Yeah.
it's got a bit holy, you can still use it in a hanging basket as a
That's a
liner,
good point. Yeah.
and put your
Yeah.
compost in. You've got drainage holes. So again, it's thinking outside the box and prolonging the life of everything that you use and
Yeah.
reducing that waste.
Yeah. Plastic or otherwise, really. It's just thinking of
Yeah.
ways to reuse, reduce, and I think that the key one, which obviously we've already touched on, is refusing. So obviously, tracking back to that Love Food Hate Waste campaign, if you're refusing to buy something in packaging, you're making that choice. So therefore, straight away, that's much
Yeah.
better for the environment. But if you
Yeah.
have ended up with something, reuse it, repurpose it,
Yeah.
upcycle it. Maybe there's other
Yeah.
things that we can do
Yeah.
before that kind of end point, if you like, of
Yeah.
recycling it.
And
Yeah.
again, a big point on what you've just highlighted about refuse is, if you refuse to buy plastic bags at the shops, they won't make them. They'll stop making them.
That's
And
true.
I don't know whether what's worse, a single-use plastic bag or these bags for life that people are still buying as if they're single-use plastic bags. So that's another whole conversation.
Yeah.
But again, if there isn't the demand for these bags, these plastic bags, then they won't churn them out the way they do. And unfortunately, they make them look all pretty and oh, well, I like this pattern and I like that character and I love that film. And so they make them so attractive that you end up buying more. So it's a dangerous area to get into. But one of the interesting things that we were discussing recently was reducing plastic waste in the bathroom. And that key thing about some of the figures that were coming out about how people tend to recycle less in the bathroom because they don't tend to have a dedicated recycle bin in the bathroom. So this is something that, again, during July, you could give some thought to and think, well, I won't put that in the bathroom bin. I'll actually take it down to the kitchen or wherever you have your recycle bin, and try and make that extra effort not to just lift your waste out of your bathroom bin and dump it straight in the general bin. And that again is putting more of your plastic waste into recycling rather than it getting lost in the general waste.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, yeah, I mean, some people, I guess it depends on the size of your bathroom. You might have a recycle bin in there, and if you do, that's fantastic, because then you've got a much greater chance of actually recycling whatever it is. It might not be plastic, it could be cardboard, it could be aerosols, hairspray, dry shampoo, that kind of thing. All of those things find themselves in the bathroom. But yeah, absolutely, if you haven't got a recycle bin in your bathroom, it's just making sure that you do make that effort to recycle it elsewhere in the house. And I know something that we find in our house, whereas I, as you can imagine, am pretty much the queen of recycling, reusing, doing all the things. It's something that I really do care about as a person. However, not all the members of my household kind of follow that, that sort of thought process, really. So they do put things in the bathroom bin that don't belong in the bathroom bin. So sometimes, if it's possible, I'll find myself having to kind of rummage through the bathroom bin to take stuff out, and sometimes it isn't possible because it might be contaminated in some way. So we have those domestic challenges, if you will.
You're not alone.
Yes, yeah.
And I know you, Hazel, so I know that you will do things as well to prolong that product and get the most out of it before you need to reach into the store cupboard for another packaged item, and that again reduces the waste, like cutting the top off the tube of toothpaste, or a bottle of hand cream, and scooping out with a spoon all the extra product that we tend to throw away. And of course the benefit of that is it saves money.
It saves money, the product lasts for longer. And of course, if you've got a plastic container full of body lotion, if it's still got the body lotion in there, you can't put it into your recycle bin. It does need to be rinsed clean. So if the only way you can do that is by removing, cutting into it in some way, safely, of course, then that needs to happen, because you've extended the life of the product, you've saved yourself some money, and you've ensured by rinsing it clean that it can actually be recycled, assuming it's squashable plastic, of course. But yeah, and I think also just tracking back again to the refillables, that is something that makes such a difference, and that's something that I do. So you do cut down on your bathroom waste. Yes, a lot of the bathroom items that we have are plastic and effectively single-use plastic, but we are reusing them for as long as we possibly can by refilling them up with shampoo, refilling them up with conditioner, and so on. And those cleaning containers as well, the spray bottles, you can refill those up with refillable cleaning spray, because of course the nozzle, the spray part, can't be recycled because it's a mixed material, and I think it's a harder, like rigid plastic. So it's only the base that could be recycled. So you're, again, with refillables, you're kind of at least temporarily removing the need for that. I mean, eventually, it may start to be unusable. So eventually you would have to do something else with it, but it's going to last for a lot longer that way.
Yeah.
So,
And there's,
yeah,
other environmental swaps, from aerosol to non-aerosol, from spray deodorants to roll-ons, those sorts of little wins that
yeah,
reduces our impact on the environment. Um,
absolutely.
I know several of my volunteers that use bar of soap shampoo,
Yeah,
which drastically reduces the packaging and completely gets rid of the plastic.
absolutely.
It does take a while to transition over, I believe,
Yeah,
until your hair comes out the other side, and it's absolutely beautiful. So if anybody is inspired to try it from this video, do stick with it for a few weeks,
yeah.
because you'll get there.
Yeah, there is, I've used them before, and there is a transitional period. We don't currently use bars, shampoo bars in our household, but we do use bars of soap to wash our hands with. Um,
Likewise.
yeah, which is fantastic, but fantastic rather, but it does bring its own issues, especially if you have children in the house, which I do. My child will actually stick her thumb in the soap, so then it will break up into two bars of soap, which is fine for a little while, but as they get smaller, so you end up with lots of little baby bars of soap, which aren't really very useful for washing your hands. So if you've got young children, it can be challenging as to how you work around that. So sometimes we have liquid soap which is refillable, and bars of soap, so we can kind of work
Mm,
around it that way.
yeah.
Because it doesn't tend to matter how many times one might say, "Don't stick your thumb in the bar of soap, please." It still it still happens. She will absolutely hate that I've said that on air, but
Yeah.
such is life,
Oh,
such as
this is,
parenting life.
yeah, absolutely. And this is reality, isn't it?
Yeah,
And another win, going back to Plastic Free July,
yeah,
another win is there are so many clubs and societies, and I think they are all going a long way to reduce plastic waste. But please, if you're in a club or society that is currently using plastic cups for the tea breaks, please encourage everybody involved in your club to bring their own mug, take it away, and that's a big, big saving. And I'm sure everybody's got their own ways of achieving this, but there's not always kitchen facilities. But it's getting everybody on board with, certainly, the choir that I was a member of. They all brought their own mug and took it away again.
yeah, yeah. Like you say, there's all of these things collectively make a difference. And actually, if you just do one of them and you just, as you've said, trial it for Plastic Free July,
Hmm.
then you've already made a difference just by trying it. But actually, if you try it
Exactly.
and then you carry on with it beyond,
Yeah,
beyond Plastic Free July, maybe forever, then
exactly.
even
Yeah.
better, even better.
Yeah. Sometimes it's about starting small and just making that commitment for
Yeah,
1 month, and then if you can move beyond that for a more permanent habit. Again, it's the same with, in July, I'm going to take my own shopping bag. And then by the
yeah,
end, I think there's, isn't it something like it takes, I don't know, a number of weeks to form a habit.
yeah,
I don't know how many weeks that is without, I'd be guessing, but you've now got that habit built in and you remember that
yeah,
reusable bag. So again, it, just right, I'm going to take my own shopping bag. And if you can make that a lifelong habit after July, then that's brilliant. And I always say there's no excuse for single use when it comes to shopping bags.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's maybe 28 days, something like that, to
Yeah,
either create or break a habit. From what I've sort of read. So yeah, it's absolutely, and you're completely right. There's no excuse for single use, particularly when it comes to plastic bags.
yeah,
And I think, again, in our household, whilst I am someone that kind of sticks to that, not all members of our household do.
yeah. Yeah.
So you can't, in life we can't sort of control other people's how they
No.
choose to
You,
do things. We can try and influence, but at the end of the day,
yes.
you
Yeah.
know everyone's living their own lives. So yeah.
So moving on finally to kitchen, reducing
Yes.
plastic waste in the
Yeah.
kitchen. Let's talk about packaging, of leftovers, and if you're making your own lunch, because there's loads of things you can do to reduce the waste you create when it comes to storing food.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really, really good one. And I think one significant one there is avoiding plastic wrap. I think often the brand name is cling film, although of course other brands are available. But plastic wrap, it is single use. Once you've wrapped something in it, you're not going to be able to reuse it because it's going to be feed contaminated. You can't recycle it. So it is a very clear example of single-use plastic that we
Absolutely.
ideally could do with avoiding completely. We don't actually use it in our household at all.
No, me
Um,
neither.
but many people may do, and it's if it's something you've already always used, that kind of makes sense. But there are other ways of doing things that
Mm.
are much more environmentally friendly. So silicone lids is one. If you've got leftovers and you want to pop them in the fridge to keep them fresh, of course, you can pop them in a bowl and put maybe a saucer or a small plate over the top is another option. If you are going to choose plastic, you could use a reusable plastic container of some kind and then just keep washing it, keep using it. Can we think of any other examples of kitchen storage solutions that aren't plastic or not single
Well, if
use in
ever
your
we need a quick and easy cover, we do use tin foil, but very
yeah,
often we will anti-bac wipe that and reuse it where we can.
yeah,
If we need to sort of put it over a chicken that's cooking, that sort of thing.
yeah,
So we try and get as many uses out of it as we hygienically can.
yeah,
But we wouldn't use it to wrap our rolls at lunchtime. We have beeswax wraps,
yeah.
and we've had those years now, and they're still going strong, and they're
Awesome.
brilliant because they also act as a bit of a plate as well if you're having a picnic.
Okay, that's
And
good.
that, for me, that's a really big saving because we very often have a roll and take it out with us.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think you can get like a vegan equivalent to that as well, can't you? If you are vegan or you for whatever reason you want to avoid beeswax, maybe
Mm.
allergies or something like that, there are alternatives that work just as
Yeah,
well. We've certainly
yeah,
used them before. I think for us it didn't quite work out. Again, I think maybe because bringing children into the equation. So I think maybe she lost some and left them in
mm,
school, that kind of thing. But it depends on the household. So we do use fabric sandwich wrappers. So we've got one. We've got those, and they've lasted for a really really long time. So they're kind of waterproof on one side, and then it's fabric on the other, and then you use Velcro to secure it. So
yeah.
they're really good. And obviously you just wash them in the washing machine along with other items.
Oh,
Probably a point
fantastic.
point to note there, if you've got Velcro and you're putting it in your washing machine, you might want to protect it from other items because if you pop it in there and you've got tights in there as well, it's probably not going to end well.
I
I know this
suspect
from
you've learnt
experience.
that along the way.
I may have learned that the hard way, yeah. So, and also the Velcro starts to degrade over time, so
Yes.
it becomes, unsticky, shall we say.
Yeah.
But you can
Yeah.
still use it. Actually, our
Yeah.
sandwich wrapper, the main one that we have, it's the Velcro has gone, but you can still use it. You can
Yeah.
just fold it under,
Yeah.
basically.
My
So
my
it's not,
beeswax
yeah.
ones have a button and a string, and you
Okay.
twist it round the button. So
Yeah.
and then it's wipeable, because you can't wash the wax ones, not to
Right.
my knowledge anyway.
You've got to
So
wipe
yeah,
them.
we just wipe them down. Yeah. So gosh, we've covered a lot in
We've
that
covered a lot of
time.
ground there, yeah. And there's,
Yeah.
and I feel that, there must be something for everyone in there, and it
Yeah.
can just be one small change for Plastic Free July. and hopefully, kind of beyond there, a change
Yeah,
for life. But even if it wasn't, and you just did it for Plastic Free July, you are still making a difference just by testing it out. Yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today, Alison.
My
It's
pleasure.
been really interesting. I hope everybody listening has found it useful, and I hope people will make positive changes for Plastic Free July.